On parents' weekend of my freshman year, my third form year, we call it, I was walking through the hallways, and parents' weekend is like the first time you've seen your parents for a month, so it's a very exciting time. But my parents only lived down the street, so they went back home. So I was walking through the dorms feeling a little sad, feeling a little sorry for myself, and then I smelled this delicious smell of Indian curry, right? So I started following my nose through the hallway until I got outside of the door of this dorm room where the smell was very strong. And then sort of accidentally on purpose, I pushed my way into the room and I saw this brother Nabil, my classmate Nabil, sitting on the floor with his brother, and they were eating goat curry with their hands, right? The sunnah style, like sitting on the floor, eating with their hands. And so they could see that my eyes were like zeroed in on the curry. So they, of course, mashallah, being generous Muslims, they invited me to come and sit with them. And so, alhamdulillah, that's how I got to know Nabil. In addition to eating the curry, they were drinking masala chai. So that was like the first time. I see some Desis in the audience. Desis, yes. So you guys like your chai, alhamdulillah. So I had never really tasted that with all the spices and everything. So Nabil, for whatever reason, decided to give me a name, which became my first Muslim name. So this was long before I became Muslim, but he gave me the name Mahbub Chaiwala, so beloved tea boy, right? So the Chaiwala is the guy in India or Pakistan who sort of like wears the chai on his back, and when the train comes into the station, he chai, 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 garamande, and then the train pulls in, and then you say chai, and he comes and he pours it for you. So I was Mahbub Chaiwala. And that, like I said, became my initial name. So Nabil had gone for Hajj, or his parents had gone for Hajj with this guy, Hakim Olajuwon. So when the Rockets came to town to play the Celtics, Nabil invited Hakim to come out to the school. So this was a pretty big deal. This was at the height, he was essentially the MVP that year. This was like 1993, 94, somewhere in there. And Hakim came and he was dressed like this. He was dressed in like Islamic clothes, not his like basketball uniform. And he sat on the floor and he just talked to us about Islam and how important it was in his life. And that left a very deep impression. So alhamdulillah, the seeds were getting planted. And eventually, in the evenings when we would be getting ready to we were brushing our teeth and so on, we shared the bathrooms. Nabil would be doing these weird rituals with the water, right? He would be, washing his hands and then like putting the water up and down his arms, right? And then at the end, he would put his foot in the sink, right? And that was like a step too far, right? Like what is this guy all about? Like he's putting his feet in the sink. But mashallah, so the initial reaction when you see something different when you're 13, 14 years old is to make fun of him. So that's what happened at first. But mashallah, Nabil had an amazing charisma, an amazing personality. After making wudu, he would go back to his dorm room and he would call the adhan out loud. He's the only Muslim, right? It was a school of like 350 kids, one Muslim, Nabil, right? But he still would call the adhan out loud because he'd heard that the person, even if they're in the wilderness, right? Even if they're in the wild woods or top of a mountain, they should still call the adhan out loud. So he did, and so we'd hear this, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, like as you would go through the hallways. And eventually, alhamdulillah, some of us answered that call. So there were 3 of us who started becoming increasingly interested in Nabil and what he was all about. So we started asking him questions. And we got very, very interested in his perspective on life. And the way he introduced us to Islam was that it was a continuation of the message that had come from the beginning of time. The 3 of us who became Muslim, we were Christian, right? We came from Christian families, we were at a Christian school. Embracing Islam doesn't entail rejecting your Christian upbringing. I want to tell you a sentence that's more valuable than every sentence in the entire world, right? Would you like to know that sentence? So of course, when you put it like that, yes, of course. Right? And so then he said the kalima, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. And when he said it, we felt this like electricity, or I felt this electricity go through my body. And I was like, whoa, there's something here. So then on Saturday nights, we used to sneak out of our dorm room after the teacher on duty had gone to bed, and we'd go to Nabil's room and we'd sit late and talk late into the night about Islam. And eventually, alhamdulillah, at the age of 15, I ended up embracing Islam, and alhamdulillah, that was obviously the most important thing to happen in my life.